This is the W5SC repeater, PL110.9.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot.
Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5SC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brendan. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio links are available online. Go to www.w5sc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's go ahead and take check-ins. We'll start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening.
W5, BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, Garland.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, R4 Northeast Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Dustin in North Dallas.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima, Huey Richardson. This is Whiskey MFI. Ted, Dallas, low power.
All right, let's check those in. First of all, W5BLT, I'm sorry I missed your name. Would you please provide it?
Sorry about that. Bill, Bravo, India, Lima, Lima. Bill in Carlin, W5BLT.
Thank you. Then we have W5GUS, Gus. KI5UUJ, Justin. KF5PLL, Huey. And WB4MFI, Ted. All right, let's go to general check-ins now.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo. Jacob, Farmers Branch, Texas.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and Mesquite.
This is Whiskey Delta 4, Romeo, November Romeo, Brandon, and Louisville.
This is
Juliet, Delta, Whiskey, John and Coppell.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
This is Kilo Echo 5, Echo November, Eric in Plano.
This is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf, Antonio y Nuclear.
This is Whiskey 5, Zulu, Charlie, Whiskey, Zach in Dallas.
This Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor and Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Okay, I'm going to need some fills. There's a lot of static tonight, and I've missed some of these, but so we'll have to pick them up. So we have KG5 VFR, Jacob, N5OF, Clay, WD4RNR, I think it is, Brandon, K5JDW, John, AA5AH, Robert, and 5PB, Bill. And then Eric, I missed your entire call. Could you come back with it?
This is KE5EN, Kilo Echo 5, Echo November, Eric in Plano.
Thank you, Kilo Echo 5, Echo November. And then Antonio, I missed your entire call too, except for the kilo in front. Could you come back with that?
Affirmative, this is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf, Antonio.
I still didn't get it. Could you slow it down just a bit, please?
Yes, sir. This is Alpha Golf 9R Sierra Golf, AG9SG.
Okay, I get AG9SG. Welcome to the net. Then we have W5Z, Charlie Whiskey, Zach, KG5, WVL, James, and KF5JHA, Chad. All right, let's take some echo links.
Tango X-ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Five SXE, Brandon, Wiley.
Okay, we've got K5KTX, Kelly, and Brandon, I'm sorry I missed your call.
So, India 5, Sierra, X-ray, Echo, over.
Okay, I got the last three. Could you come back with the whole thing?
On Echo Link, it's kind of weird, I guess. The call sign is Kilo, India 5, Sierra, X-ray, Echo, over.
Okay, finally got that. Kilo, India 5, Sierra, X-ray, Echo. And your name is Brandon. Okay, any more check-ins from any type right now?
Kilo, Golf, 5, Alpha, Papa, Lima, Patrick, and Dallas.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Louisville.
Okay, we got KG5 APL, Patrick, and KE5 ICX, Tom. We're going to pause there, and we can come back and do some more check-ins later. So let's get started. This is WB50ZL. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? They can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. We have nets going on throughout the week. The AMSET group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSET. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsetnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSET Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz. Tuesdays, Tom N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC ClubNet, so no AMSAT east of that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. Then we have the VARC hosted nets on Mondays. The first week is Ham Fixins. Second week, MCOM 101. Third week, Ham Fixins. Fourth week, GeekNet. Fifth week, SurpriseNet. And if we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. Q&As, info and news for amateur satellites. Fridays, CERT City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Then on Saturdays, we have TechNet at 7 to 8, and then, of course, Skynet at 9 p.m. And the first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, MODA, and that's at 7 p.m. Then every day we have the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. So tonight's Afterglow info, no matter how many sequels there are on television, no matter how many shows beyond their original 72, no matter the mathematical probabilities of the number of times we say we can reboot this show one more time, our first episode about the stars is always the province of familiar space stories of science fiction. First episodes must always live squarely in the fans' expectations. The first episode must always win hearts in the first 10 minutes, or it will fail if it cannot. Join us for the first episode, free on YouTube no less, of Star Trek Strange New Worlds 2022 on Saturday, May 21st at 10:30 p.m. And note says please check your email for updated information. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. All right, do we have any more check-ins right now? All right, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give us information.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 27th. That's 6 days from now at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be a dual meeting. In other words, it's going to be in person as well as on Zoom. The in-person part will be at the University of Dallas on Campbell Road. Kevin Cobble and Bill Coupling will be the featured speakers talking about citizen astronomy and recent occultation observations. Task Club members have already received an email link to the Zoom meeting. Now, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Saturday night public observing sessions have already begun. The one in Garland is on the first Saturday of each month, and I was there, about 6 weeks ago. Huey is the host of that one, and it was great. Unfortunately, the one a couple of weeks ago did not happen because of clouds and, wind, too. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the task public observing sessions, which are also, again, held on Saturday nights. Check the task website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And that's all from me, unless somebody has a question. This is KF5 JHA. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Taz. All right, next up, National Space Society events and activities. I'm going to call on Bill, N5BB, to give us some news items from there.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our normal meetings are on the second Sunday afternoon of every month. So our next meeting will be Sunday, June the 12th at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. We had an event today which was called NASA on the Plaza at the Perot Museum in Dallas. It was outside, and fortunately the storms kind of stopped, and we didn't have any problem there, but it looked like it was going to pour down there badly for a while, and also lightning. Anyway, it went on from about 10 to 2, and I was there assisting with that. The big event for National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference 2022, which is being held next week in a suburb of Washington, D.C. It's going to be held at the Hyatt Regency Crystal City at Reagan National Airport, which is in Arlington, Virginia, right adjacent to Washington, D.C. And it's been held virtually for the last couple of years because of the pandemic, but it's back to an in-person meeting, and I will be there for the first time. And it will be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May the 27th, 28th, and 29th, this upcoming week. So I will not be here on Skynet next week unless I'm able to check in on Echolink, and at this time I don't know about my schedule. I'm not positive I'll be able to do that, but I might. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, about joining or a local chapter, you can send me an email at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net, or N5BB@ARRL.net. That's like November 5 Bravo Bravo @ARRL.net. And let me know your questions about National Space Society, or if you'd like to join the national group or our local chapter. That's all I've got. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I'll call for more check-ins now, please.
Fox 5, November, X-Ray Romeo, John Caddo Mills.
Okay, John, I missed prefix. If you could come back with that.
Brenda, Kilo Fox 5, November X-Ray Romeo. I've also checked in through the text through Echolink that Tom gets in this evening.
Okay, very good, John. Copy. Kilo Foxtrot 5, November X-Ray Romeo. All right. right, so let's move into our discussion topic of the evening. What is the Event Horizon Telescope? I'm sure you've seen recent pictures of Sagittarius A star. They are stunning, and this is so exciting. So, the Event Horizon Telescope, which we're going to call the EHT from here on, is a large telescope array consisting of a global network of radio telescopes. The EHT project combines data from several very long baseline interferometry, VLBI, stations around Earth, which form a combined array with an angular resolution sufficient to observe objects the size of a supermassive black hole's event horizon. The project's observational targets include the two black holes with the largest angular diameter as observed from Earth, the black hole at the center of the supergiant elliptical galaxy Messier 87, and that's M87 star, and Sagittarius A star at the center of the Milky Way. The Event Horizon Telescope project is an international collaboration that was launched in 2009. On the theory side, work on the photon orbit and first simulations of what a black hole would look like progressed to predictions of VLBI imaging for the galactic center black hole Sagittarius A star. Technical advances in radio observing moved from the first detection of Sagittarius A star through VLBI at progressively shorter wavelengths, ultimately leading to detection of horizon scale structure in both Sagittarius A star and M87. M87. The collaboration now comprises over 300 members, 60 institutions, and are working in over 20 countries and regions. The first image of a black hole at the center of galaxy Messier 87 was first published by the EHT collaboration on April 10, 2019, in a series of 6 scientific publications. The array made this observation at a wavelength of 1.3 millimeters with a theoretical diffraction limited resolution of 25 micro-arcseconds. In March 2021, the collaboration presented for the first time a polarized image of the black hole, which may help better reveal the forces giving rise to quasars. Future plans involve improving the array's resolution by adding new telescopes and by taking shorter wavelength observations. On 12 May 2022, astronomers unveiled the first image of the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way, Sagittarius A star. The EHT is composed of many radio observatories or radio telescope facilities around the world, working together to produce a high-sensitivity, high-angular resolution telescope. Through the technique of very long baseline interferometry, VLBI, many independent radio antennas separated by hundreds or thousands of kilometers can act as a phased array, a virtual telescope which can be pointed electronically with an effective aperture which is the diameter of the entire planet, substantially improving its angular resolution. The effort includes development and deployment of sub-millimeter dual polarization receivers, highly stable frequency standards to enable very long baseline interferometry at 230 to 450 gigahertz, higher bandwidth VLBI backends and recorders, as well as commissioning of new sub-millimeter VLBI sites. The Event Horizon Telescope collaboration announced its first results 6 simultaneous press conference worldwide on April 10, 2019. The announcement featured the first direct image of a black hole, which showed the supermassive black hole at the center of Messier 87, designated M87 star. The scientific results were presented in a series of 6 papers published in the Astrophysical journal Letters. counterclockwise rotating black hole was observed in the, I can't read it, something region. Producing an image from data from an array of radio telescopes. I'm told that's 6 Sigma region. Producing an image from data from an array of radio telescopes requires much mathematical work. 4 independent teams created images to assess the reliability of the results. These methods included both an established algorithm in radio astronomy for image reconstruction known as TLEAM, as well as self-calibrating image processing methods for astronomy such as CHIRP, an algorithm created by Catherine Bowman and others. The algorithms were ultimately used were a regularized maximum likelihood algorithm and the clean algorithm. In March 2020, astronomers proposed an improved way of seeing more of the rings of the first black hole image. In March 2021, a new photo was revealed showing how the M87 black hole looks in polarized light. This is the first time astronomers have been able to measure polarization so close to the edge of a black hole. The lines of the photo mark the orientation of polarization, which is related to the magnetic field around the shadow of the black hole. 3C279. In April 2020, the EHT released the first 20 micro-arcsecond resolution images of the archetypal blazar 3C279 that it observed in April 2017. These images, generated from observations over 4 nights in April 2017, reveal bright components of a jet whose projection on the observer plate exhibit apparent superluminal motions with speeds up to 20 c. Such apparent superluminal motion from relativistic emitters, such as an approaching jet, is explained by mission originating closer to the observer downstream along the jet, catching up with a mission originating further from the observer at the jet base as the jet propagates close to the speed of light at small angles to the line of sight. In July 2021, high-resolution images of the jet produced by a black hole sitting at the center of Centaurus A were released, with a mass around 5.5 times a bunch of numbers. The black hole is not big enough to observe its ring as with Messier 87 star, M87 star, but its jet extends even beyond its host galaxy while staying as a highly collimated beam, which is a point of study. Edge brightening of the jet was also observed, which would exclude models of particle acceleration that are unable to reproduce this effect. The image was 16 times sharper than previous observations and utilized a 1.3 millimeter wavelength. Sagittarius A star on May 12, 2022. That was just last week. The EHT collaboration revealed an image of Sagittarius A star, a supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. The black hole is 27,000 light years away from Earth. It is thousands of times smaller than M87 star. We have 2 completely different types of galaxies and 2 very different black hole masses. Close to the edge of these black holes, they look amazingly similar. This tells us that general relativity governs these objects so close, and any differences we see further away must be due to differences in the material that surrounds the black holes. All right. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, next segment is Was Up, Chaz, KF5JHA. Take it.
Thank you, Brenda. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Just to let everyone know, I won't be here local next week, so I'm going to try to check in via Echolink as well next week. Now, my degree's in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics labs and geology labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Master, if you're looking at the video portion, we need to switch to slide number 2. The total lunar eclipse last Sunday was a bust for us here in North Texas. That was 6 days ago because of the thunderstorms that came, and we've still got scattered thunderstorms tonight. They came in from Oklahoma and crossed over the Red River into Texas. I was able to get a picture of the moon, and if you're looking at the video version of this, you can see on the video version of Skynet the picture I took of the moon before the eclipse started and just before the moon was eaten up by the clouds. We do have another total lunar eclipse visible in North Texas later this year on November the 8th. Hopefully it will be clear then. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On May the 15th, the moon was full. Again, that was the lunar eclipse. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On May the 22nd, that's tomorrow, the moon is at third quarter phase. On May the 30th, the moon will be new. On June the 1st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,192 kilometers. On June the 7th, the moon will be at its first quarter. On June the 14th, the moon is full. Also, on June the 14th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,432 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On May the 22nd, a conjunction involving the moon, which will be about 6 degrees away from Saturn in the early morning sky, should be a great preview of another conjunction just a couple of days after that. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. So on May the 24th, this conjunction is between the moon, the planet Mars, and the planet Jupiter, which will all be about within 9 degrees of each other in the early morning sky. Should be a great thing to see. Slide number 6, please. And the moon and Venus will be in conjunction on May the 27th, just being a few degrees apart in the eastern morning sky. Jupiter and Mars are about 25 degrees to the lower right of the moon and Venus. See a bunch of things in the morning sky right now. Slide number 7. On May the 27th, it will be a wonderful conjunction of Jupiter and Mars, which will only be about a half a degree apart from each other in the early morning eastern sky. Slide number 8. And also on May the 29th, around 6 a.m., look toward the very low eastern morning sky during strong twilight to see the moon being only about 5 degrees to the right of the star cluster, the Pleiades. And the planet Mercury is about 2 degrees just to the lower left, to the lower right of the moon at that time too. So once again, a lot of things going on in the early morning skies. Slide number 9, please. On June the 11th, the planets Venus and Uranus will only be about 1.5 degrees apart in the eastern morning sky in this conjunction. You'll probably need a telescope or at least a good pair of binoculars to see the planet Uranus. It's just, if you're in very dark, clear skies, away from the city lights, you might be able to see Uranus with just your 2 eyes without optical aid. But usually you need at least binoculars to be able to see it. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. The June Lyrid meteor shower peaks on the night of June 16th and 17th and is estimated to have about 20 or more meteors per hour. The best time to observe meteors is about an hour before dawn in the early morning sky. As I always do, I suggest visiting one of the 80 Texas state parks or wildlife refuges where you can camp and you're far away from the city lights as well at the same time. Slide number 11, please. Saturn and the moon will be in conjunction on June the 18th in the early morning southern sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 12, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held in 6 days on Friday, May the 27th at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be a meeting available in person at the University of Dallas and also held on Zoom. Task members have already received the link to the Zoom meeting. Kevin Cobble and Bill Coupling will be the featured speakers talking about citizen astronomy and also recent occultation observations. And once again, our public observing sessions have already begun again. Go to the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Slide number 13. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question, or maybe someone else here on the net might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. JJ, I think last weekend's lunar eclipse was preempted by storms rather than eclipsed by it, yeah. So, slide master, slide number 14. As the moon waned at the end of April, and it's waning right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Pray for the people of Ukraine as well. Till next time, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up, and this is Chaz, KF5 JHA, back to our net control.
Thank you, Chaz. Our next segment is space exploration and space history. Tonight it's Kelly's turn, K5KTX. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yes, Kelly, good evening to everyone on the net. So Boeing's CST-100 Starliner finally successfully launched to the International Space Station on Thursday on a United Launch Alliance, or ULA, Atlas V rocket on a mission designed to test the end-to-end capabilities of the crew-capable system as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. Starliner lifted off on NASA's Boeing Orbital Flight Test 2, or OFT-2, at 5:54 p.m. Central Daylight Time from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Following an orbital insertion burn 31 minutes later, Starliner was on its way for a rendezvous and docking with the space station. Launch and orbital insertion are major milestones for the company's second uncrewed flight, bringing the U.S. closer to having two independent crew systems flying missions to and from the space station. Starliner docked to the forward port of the station's Harmony module at 7:28 p.m. Central Daylight Time last night. After a successful docking, the crew of Expedition 67 opened Starliner's hatch at 11:04 a.m. this morning and were greeted by Rosie the Rocketeer, an anthropomorphic test device or flight dummy sitting in the commander's seat. For the flight test, Starliner is carrying about 500 pounds of NASA cargo and crew supplies and more than 300 pounds of Boeing cargo to the International Space Station. Following certification, NASA missions aboard Starliner will carry up to 4 crew members to the station, enabling the continued expansion of the crew and increasing the amount of science and research that can be performed aboard the orbiting laboratory. OFC-2 will provide valuable data toward NASA certifying Boeing's crew transportation systems for regular flights with astronauts to and from the space station. Starliner is scheduled to depart the space station Wednesday, May the 25th, when it will undock and return to Earth with a desert landing in the western U.S. The spacecraft will return with more than 600 pounds of cargo including the nitrogen-oxygen recharge system reusable tanks that provide breathable air to station crew members. The tanks will be refurbished on Earth and sent back to the station on a future flight. And in space history this past week, starting with May the 15th, way back in 1963, Mercury Atlas 9, or the Phase 7 spacecraft, launched. This flight by Gordo Cooper was the first U.S. space flight that lasted longer than 24 hours. It was also the last flight of Project Mercury, and therefore the last time that a U.S. astronaut launched solo, in other words, without another astronaut on board. Cooper's second and last space flight was as commander of Gemini 5 with Pete Conrad in 1965. There had been some discussion about flying a Mercury Atlas 10 mission. Alan Shepard personally lobbied President Kennedy for approval to fly that mission, but the president deferred to the judgment of NASA leadership. Administrator Jim Webb said that it was time to move ahead with Project Gemini. Shepard was grounded for a medical issue shortly afterward and would not fly in space again until 1971, when he commanded Apollo 14, the third mission to land on the moon. On May the 16th, 2011, a little closer to our time here, Space Shuttle Endeavour launched on her last space flight on STS-134. The 16-day mission delivered the alpha magnetic spectrometer and other spare parts to the International Space Station. Coincidentally, 19 years earlier, Endeavour's first mission, STS-49, landed on the same day, May 16, 1992. Now retired, the orbiter is on display at the California Science Center in Los Angeles, which I had the opportunity to visit. On May the 18th, 1969, Apollo 10 launched. The crew's mission was to fly the complete profile of a moon landing mission without actually touching down on the moon. That goal was, of course, achieved on the next mission, Apollo 11. Apollo 10 was only the second human spacecraft to orbit the moon and the first to travel to the moon with a lunar module. While orbiting the moon on May 22nd, 1969, astronauts Tom Stafford and Gene Cernan descended inside the lunar module, call sign Snoopy, to within nearly 9 miles of the lunar surface. Meanwhile, astronaut John Young flew the command module, call sign Charlie Brown, awaiting the return of his crewmates. Having successfully tested the full lunar landing profile, the crew of Apollo 10 returned to Earth, splashing down on May 26, 1969. John Young returned to the moon as commander of Apollo 16, and Gene Cernan commanded Apollo 17. Unlike his crew, Tom Stafford never did get to walk on the moon. May the 20th, 1988, by executive order, President Ronald Reagan designated the National Space Technology Laboratories of NASA in the state of Mississippi as the John C. Stennis Space Center, or SSC. John Stennis served as a United States Senator for more than 40 years, in which time he supported the space program from its beginning and was an advocate for the leadership of the United States in space. The center itself played, at the time of this designation, and continues to play an important role in the nation's space program. Today, the SSC houses the rocket test complex used for testing all manned Apollo and shuttle flights, and which continues to be used for testing next-generation engines and rocket stages. This past week, we celebrated quite a few astronaut birthdays, beginning with April the 15th. Back in 1942 was the birth of Tony England, who was on Space Shuttle Flight STS-51F. Also on May the 15th, 1949, Frank Culbertson Jr., who was on several Space Shuttle missions, STS-38, STS-51, and then he flew up to the space station on STS-105 as part of Expedition 3. and then he came back down from the space station on STS-108. And one of the interesting things about Frank is that he is the only United States citizen who was not on the planet during the 9/11 attacks. He also took those famous that we know of the smoke that was coming from Ground Zero in New York City after those attacks. And another interesting tidbit is that one of his Naval Academy classmates was the pilot at takeoff of the plane that crashed into the Pentagon. So that's kind of a sad situation. But anyway, very interesting trivia for Frank Culbertson. May the 16th, 1945 is the birthday of Brewster Shaw, Space Shuttle missions STS-9, 61B, and 28. May 17th, 1967 is Joe Acaba, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-119. He was part of Expedition 3132 and Expedition 5354. May 18th, 1930, Don Lind, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-51B. May 19th, 1939, Dick Scobie, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-41C, and tragically he was lost on the Challenger mission STS-51L. Also on May the 19th, 1955, Pierre Suat, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but STS-36, 49, and 62. The 20th, 1944, David Walker, Space Shuttle missions STS-51A, 30, 53, and 69. Also May the 20th, 1951, Thomas Akers, Space Shuttle missions STS-41, 49, 61, and 79. May the 20th, 1964, Paul Richards, who was on STS-102. And finally, May the 21st, today, 1942, Robert Springer, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-29 and 38. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Brenda.
Okay, Kelly, thank you very much. That's fascinating stuff. All right, next up, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Again, we call on Chaz, KF5J. Oh, you know what? Let's take more check-ins first. Okay, excuse me.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean and Fort Worth.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Breller.
Okay, we got KB9 SOK, Sean, and K5GLD, Randy. All right, next go to Chaz, KF5JHA, for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Slide Master, slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellations of the week this week are Coma, Berenices Hare, and Canis Monadicy, the hunting dogs. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 16. This is what all of you have been waiting for, the jokes of the week. So I've got to have some hair jokes. That's difficult for a bald man. And some dog jokes. Okay, here we go. So why aren't dogs good dancers? Because they have two left feet. Yes, JJ, I saw that joke earlier. It doesn't go with the Constellation of the Week. He's got some jokes over there on Echolink right now. How do dog catchers get paid? course, by the pound. Which dog always knows what time it is? Now, come on, all of you out there, you probably know which one is the dog that knows what time it is. Come on, someone on the Echolink, you can answer it. I'm sure you can. But JJ, I'm disappointed you're not answering this one. It's a watchdog, of course. All right. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use a honeycomb. How does Moses style his hair? With a parting. Because of the lockdown a year ago, my hair never has been longer. I guess it really started to grow on me. Actually, I trim it all the time. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 17. The constellation of Coma Berenices, or Coma Berenices, and Canis Monadicy can be found tonight almost directly overhead. Well, not tonight because it's cloudy, but almost overhead if it's clear, between the constellations of Boötes and Leo the Lion. There are lots of things to take into note with these constellations. I'll talk about several things. Initially, I had about 9 pages of information on these constellations, but now I've cut it down to just 2 pages. That way we might have time for the rest of those segments in Skynet tonight. Slide Master, slide number 18. Coma Berenices is recognized as an asterism, which is used to belong to a constellation of Leo the Lion. Tycho Brahe was the first to recognize it as a distinct constellation. The constellation is one of the few constellations to be named after a physical figure, a historical figure, a real person. In this case, it is named after Queen Berenice II of Egypt, the wife of Ptolemy III. Interesting. Slide Master, slide number 19. There's a star cluster catalog called Millet. Millet 111 is the Coma star cluster, which is visible to the unaided eye because it's made up of 5th and 6th magnitude stars. If you're in really dark, clear skies away from the city lights, you can see it easily with your 2 eyes. It's a real cluster. It's not just a chance alignment of stars. It's also known as designation of Colander 256. The cluster consists of about 80 members scattered across about 5 degrees of the sky. It is 260 light years away. The cluster is one of the nearest open clusters. For many people, the cluster is not just Coma Berenices, but it is Coma Berenices. Slide Master, slide number 20. Next is M53, which is a compact globular cluster. It looks like a fuzzy star and an 80 millimeter refractor at 8 power. 16 power, it has some width, and at 38 power, it is noticeably brighter core surrounded by faint, wispy outer regions, which will not resolve into individual stars, but with an 8-inch telescope, it does begin to resolve. More aperture is needed to better resolve it. It can be completely resolved with a 12-inch or larger telescope. Slide number 21, please. M64 is the Black-Eye Galaxy. In an 80 millimeter telescope, it is just a tiny smudge at 8 power. It takes on a noticeable elliptical shape at 16 power. An 8-inch telescope has it as an obvious a stellar nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a fuzzy oval. The dark dust bands that form the black eye are not visible as such, but instead the oval is asymmetric. One side, if it was cut off from a parallel to the long axis in an oval. The 12-inch or larger telescopes can begin to see what it's like in its namesake. And you know what? With a 16-inch telescope, I've seen it through my 16-inch telescope, and it does look like a black eye. Slide Master, slide number 22. Photographs showing M88 is a nice spiral galaxy. It is obliquely angled spiral, similar to M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. In fact, Stephen James Amiro writes in the astronomer John Mallis aptly described M88 as resembling the Andromeda Galaxy, depicting it in a very small-scale photograph. In a 16-inch dot, you could start to see some modeling in M88, but it may be hard to pick out individual dust lanes. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 23, please. Canis Monadicy does not have any bright stars, but it does have some interesting stars. It is a small northern constellation that was created by Helvius in the 17th century. It's named Latin, means the hunting dogs. The constellation is often depicted as illustrations as representing the dogs of Boötes, the herdsman, a neighboring constellation. Corkerali is the constellation's brightest star with an apparent magnitude of 2.9, and it is a binary star. Corkerali is a binary star with a combined apparent brightness of 2.9, as I said. The two stars are 19.6 arc seconds apart in the sky and are easily resolved in small telescopes. The system lies approximately 110 light years away from the sun. Slide Master, slide number 24, please. Right on the border between Canis Monadicy and Boötes is M3, a wonderful globular cluster. You can find it about halfway in between Corkerali and Arcturus. It is easily seen in binoculars and even a small telescope as you see some of the individual outlying stars. With larger telescopes, 8 inches and larger, should be able to resolve into individual stars clear to the core. It's about 34,000 light years in distance. One of the best star clusters you can see. Now, M13 is better, but M3 is a really nice one. Slide Master, slide number 25. Another deep sky object are beautiful galaxies. M94 is also known as the Croc's Eye Galaxy. It can be found a little bit north of halfway between Alpha and Beta Canis Monadicy. In a 12 or 13-inch telescope, it appears as a bright, fuzzy comet. Photographs show a beautiful spiral galaxy. It's about 14 million light years away. Slide Master, slide number 26. M63, the Sunflower Galaxy. When looking at a photograph, it does look like a sunflower. You can find it about 1/3 of the way between Corkerali. And something else. I didn't write down what the other thing it was. Oh, well. Once again, binoculars should be able to see a very faint, fuzzy object. A small telescope can be easily found, but in a 10-inch or larger telescope with 200 magnification and good seeing conditions, you can see details. It is 37 million light years away. And what I think is a really fascinating galaxy, this is Slide Master, slide number 27, M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. I have a poster up in the lab at Brookhaven of a Hubble image. Well, actually, it's many images pasted together of the Whirlpool Galaxy, and it looks great. It's a showpiece galaxy located between the stars of Alkaid and Corkerali. M51 is located just off the handle of the Big Dipper. It can be easily seen in binoculars in a dark sky location. The graceful winding arms of the majestic spiral galaxy, I didn't write this, I borrowed this from someone else. M51 appear like a grand spiral staircase sweeping through space. They're actually long lanes of stars and gas laced with dust. Such striking arms are the hallmark of so-called grand design spiral galaxies. These arms serve as an important purpose. They are star-forming factories, compressing hydrogen gas and creating clusters of new stars. Some astronomers think that the Whirlpool's arms are particularly prominent because of the effects of a close encounter with NGC 5195, the small yellowish galaxy at the outermost tip of one of the arms of M51. The compact galaxy appears to be tugging on the arm, and the tidal forces from which trigger new star formation. Hubble's clear view shows, and that's what I was talking about a minute ago, NGC 5195 is passing behind the M51. The small galaxy has been gliding past the whirlpool for hundreds of millions of years. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 28, please. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellations of Coma, Berenices here, and Canis Monadicy, the hunting dogs. I'm just giving you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. There's a couple of exceptions that have like 400 objects. But if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you usually can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 29. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week. Coma, Berenices, and Canis Monadicy. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen for tonight, as I do every week. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time, I'll take a look at Virgo, the maiden. And this is KF5, JHA, sending it back to Net Control 73, everyone. It's all yours, Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. That was wonderful. Makes me want to run outside, except there's thunder here at my location. I think I'll stay in. Check-ins. Please come now. Okay, next. Space launches for this week. I'm going to call Tom, KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Well, let me see. There's a bunch of things coming up. We've got May 25th. We've got a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch from SLC-40. The Transporter 5 mission, a ride-share flight to a sun-synchronous orbit with numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial and government customers. This is moved to Cape Canaveral from Vandenberg Air Force Base, or Space Force Base, I should say these days. Let's see, in May, yet to be determined, there will be a launch from SLC-2W, the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Firefly Alpha rocket will launch on its second test flight with ride-share payload consisting of multiple unspecified small satellites. They will tell us. In May, also, to be determined, SSLV launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. This launch will be the first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid fuel stages, 3 fueled upper stages. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into Earth orbit. In also May, it looks like May 31st, in fact, is the Capstone mission. The launch times to be determined. This is at Launch Complex 1B at Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. A rocket lab electron rocket will launch NASA's CIS Lunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology Operations and Navigation Satellite. I believe we talked about that earlier, or Capstone, mission to the moon. Capstone will fly to the moon on Rocket Lab's Photon Space Tug, entering a unique halo-like lunar orbit to test deep space navigation and communications in the same orbit to be used by NASA's Gateway Mini-Space Station. We also have to be determined another SSLV from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. This will launch the first commercial mission of 4 Earth observation satellites for Black Sky Global. The ride-share mission for Black Sky is being arranged by Spaceflight. And Spaceflight is the name of the company. I know, it seems weird, doesn't it? June 3rd will be a launch of a Progress 81P Soyuz spacecraft from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The rocket will launch the 81st Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly on the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. then in June, let me look and see what all we got here. I'm just going to name a couple here. In June, we have the Long March 2F Senjiao 14 launch from Zhuklin, China. The Long March 2F rocket will launch the Senjiao 14 spacecraft with 3 Chinese astronauts to rendezvous and dock with and the third to the Chinese space station. And then finally, I'll give this for June 7th. It's very busy over the next couple of months. We have the SpaceX CRS-25 launch. It's from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Dragon 2 spacecraft on its 5th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The flight is the 25th mission by SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract. All right, I think I'll end it there. Miss Brenda, I'll give the next piece. This is KE to ICX.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Do we have any check-ins now? Okay, we're going to move on to recent astronomical discoveries. This article is entitled, "In a Pair of Merging Supermassive Black Holes, a New Method for Measuring the Void." 3 years ago, the first ever image of a black hole stunned the world. Black pit of nothingness enclosed by a fiery ring of light. That iconic image of the black hole at the center of galaxy Messier 87 came into focus thanks to the Event Horizon Telescope, a global network of synchronized radio dishes acting as one giant telescope. I know we talked about it earlier, but we can't get enough of this. Now, a pair of Columbia researchers have devised a potentially easier way of gazing into the abyss. Outlined in complementary studies in Physical Review Letters and the Physical Review D, their imaging technique would allow astronomers to study black holes smaller than M87s, a monster with a mass of 6.5 billion stars, harbored in galaxies more distant than M87, which at 55 million light-years away is still relatively close to our own Milky Way. The technique has just 2 requirements. First, you need a pair of supermassive black holes in the throes of merging. Second, you need to be looking at the pair at a nearly side-on angle. From this sideways vantage point, as one black hole passes in front of the other, you should be able to see a bright flash of light as the glowing ring of the black hole further away is magnified by the black hole closest to you, a phenomenon known as gravitational lensing. The lensing effect is well known, but what the researchers discovered here was a hidden signal, a distinctive dip in brightness corresponding to the shadow of the black hole in back. The subtle dimming can last from a few hours to a few days, depending on how massive the black holes and how closely entwined their orbits. If you measure how long the dip lasts, the researchers say, you can estimate the size and shape of the shadow cast by the black hole's event horizon, the point of no exit where nothing escapes, not even light. It took years and a massive effort by dozens of scientists to make that high-resolution image of the M87 black holes, said the study's first author, Jordi Davalar, a postdoc at Columbia and the Flatiron Institute's Center for Computational Astrophysics. That approach only works for the biggest and closest black holes, the pair at the heart of M87 and potentially our own Milky Way. He added, with our technique, you measure the brightness of the black holes over time. You don't need to resolve each object spatially. It should be possible to find a signal in many galaxies. The shadow of a black hole is both its most mysterious and informative feature That dark spot tells us about the size of the black hole, the shape of the space-time around it, and how matter falls into the black hole near its horizon, said co-author Zoltan Heyman, a physics professor at Columbia. Black hole shadows may also hold secret to the true nature of gravity, one of the fundamental forces of our universe. Einstein's theory of gravity, known as general relativity, predicts the size of black holes. Physicists, therefore, have sought them out to test alternative theories of gravity in an effort to reconcile two competing ideas of how nature works. Einstein's general relativity, which explains large-scale phenomena like orbiting planets and the expanding universe, in quantum physics, which explains how tiny particles like electrons and photons can occupy multiple states at once. The researchers became interested in flaring supermassive black holes after spotting a suspected pair of supermassive black holes at the center of a far-off galaxy in the early universe. NASA's planet-hunting Kepler Space Telescope was scanning for the tiny dips in brightness corresponding to a planet passing in front of its host star. Instead, Kepler ended up detecting the flares of what Heyman and his colleagues claimed to be a pair of merging black holes. They named the distant galaxy Spiky for the spikes in brightness triggered by its suspected black holes magnifying each other on each full rotation via the lensing effect. To learn more about this flare, Heyman built a model with his postdoc, Globular. They were confused, however, when their simulated pair of black holes produced an unexpected but periodic dip in brightness each time one orbited in front of the other. At first, they thought it was a coding mistake, but further checking led them to trust the signal. As they looked for a physical mechanism to explain it, they realized that each dip in brightness closely matched the time it took for the black hole to the viewer to pass in front of the shadow of the black hole and back. The researchers are currently looking for other telescope data to try and confirm the dip they saw in the Kepler data to verify that Spiky is, in fact, harboring a pair of merging black holes. If it all checks out, the technique could be applied to a handful of other suspected pairs of merging supermassive black holes among the 150 or so that have been spotted so far and are awaiting confirmation. As more powerful telescopes come online in the coming years, other opportunities may arise. The Vera Rubin Observatory, set to open this year, has its sights on more than 100 million supermassive black holes. Further black hole scouting will be possible when NASA's gravitational wave detector, LISA, is launched into space in 2030. Even if only a tiny fraction of these black hole binaries has the right conditions to measure our proposed effect, we could find many of these black hole dips, Globular said. This article is from ScienceDaily.com. And I read the whole article. You can go there and look at it again. And if you're interested in the EHT, they have a Facebook page, Event Horizon Telescope, which I recently joined, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. A lot of cool pictures of the different telescopes and information. And if you're interested, you might want to think about that. Okay, next up, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tom, KE5ICX, do you have anything to tell us about all that?
Yeah, Brenda, I'll be happy to do so. There are no ISS or Tiangong passes, which are larger objects that usually pass over and very dramatic, but I do have some of our secondaries that are always interesting. Actually, I got two for you. One is the X-37B. That is the space plane, the unmanned space plane that's been now in orbit for, I think it's close to 2 years now. It has one pass on May 23rd. It'd be 1.2 magnitude. It will be at 20:57 Dallas time here. Reach its highest point at 2100 even, and it will fall at 21:03 the south-southeast. So it would be from the west-northwest to the south-southeast. Next up is Envisat. Let's see if I can bring that up. There we go. And it has several passes. May 22nd is a good one, 3.7 magnitude. Barely visible, but we would be able to see it. 5:43 in the morning out of the north or the east. It reached its highest point at 5:48, and it'll fall at 5:53 to the south. Since this is a polar orbit, dead polar orbit satellite, and very large, you're always going to get that configuration north to south. Next is May 25th. This one's 4.3 magnitude, 5:31 in the morning out of the north-northeast, reaches its highest point at 5:36 at 42 degrees, and then falls to the south at 5:41. Then two more, May 28th, 4.7 magnitude at 5:20 in the morning out of the northeast again. This one will be a little lower at 5:24. It'll reach its highest point at 32 degrees, and it'll fall at 5:29. And then finally, May 30th, 3.6 magnitude, 5:44 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 59 degrees at 5:49, and it'll fall at 5:54. And that's it. I don't have anything else for you this evening. Miss Brenda, back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any last-minute check-ins?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in the kitchen.
Okay, November. Can't read what I wrote, but I should know your call. November Tango 5 Tango Mike. Sorry about that. My bad writing threw me off. Tony, welcome to the net. All right, we are at the end of the road, and we're about out of time anyway, so this just dovetails nicely. So, tonight we had 25 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We'll hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:23 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, don't go away. We have Afterglow shortly after this. KE5ICX, do you want to tell us anything about it?
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. Since we ended a little bit early, we will begin at 10:30. 10:30, so that's 7 minutes away. So come on back. We'll be talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that brand new television show that came out and had allowed us to see the first episode for free right up until Thursday. Hopefully you got a chance to see it. So we'll be back here at 10:30 with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We'll see you then. This is KE5ICX. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. See you all in a few minutes.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, it is 10:30. We'll go ahead and get started. This is the Afterglow Movie Net, where we talk about movies. Only tonight we're going to talk about a television show instead. We had an opportunity, at least for a couple of weeks, to watch the pilot episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, a new television series created by Akiva Goldsman, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet for the streaming service Paramount Plus. The 11th Star Trek series, and was launched in 2022 as part of the expanded Star Trek universe. A spin-off from Star Trek Discovery, it follows Captain Christopher Pike, you may recognize that name, and the crew of the starship USS Enterprise, you may recognize that name, as they explore new worlds throughout the galaxy during the decade before Star Trek, the original series. Stars Anson Mount, Ethan Beck, Rebecca Romijn, respectively, star as Kirk. Whoops, I said it. It's Pike, Spock number 1. All characters from the original series. These actors were cast in the roles in 2019 for the second season of Discovery, and after a positive fan response, Kurtzman expressed interest in bringing them back. Confirmed with Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers as showrunners. Jeff Bush, Christina Chong, and a whole bunch of other people also star. The series is produced by CBS Studios in association with Secret Hideout and a bunch of other companies, including Roddenberry Entertainment, with filming taking place at CBS stages in Canada and Mississauga, Ontario. The showrunners chose to return to traditional episodic storytelling that was closer to the style of the original series than the more modern serialized storytelling used in Discovery. Star Trek Strange New Worlds premiered on Paramount on May 5th, 2022, and its first 10-episode run is running through July 7th of this year. It has received positive reviews from critics for its episodic storytelling approach and cast. The second season is in production and is expected to premiere in 2023. All right, I'm going to read you the premise, and then after that, I'm going to read the synopsis for episode 1. So, Strange New World. Oh, one of my lights just burnt out here in the room. Star Trek Strange New Worlds follows Captain Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, and the crew of the starship USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, in the 23rd century as they explore new worlds throughout the galaxy in the decade before Star Trek, the original series. It has a contemporary take on that series' episodic storytelling and the 1960s design, and features the following narration from Mount during each episode's opening credits. Everybody want to say it together? Space the final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Now, hopefully you got a chance to watch the first episode. That's okay if you did not, or you got shut out because they took it down early. Well, not early, but they decided to take it down. We'll fill you in. You can talk about anything you want about Star Trek or even the contemporary series that have come up in recent years. So, here's the story for Episode 1 of Strange New Worlds. In the 23rd century, Starfleet Admiral Robert April recalls Captain Christopher Pike of the starship from shore leave after Pike's first officer, Una Chin Riley, referred to as Number 1, goes missing during the first contact mission. Pike is reluctant to return to space and confides in Vulcan science officer Spock, who has just become engaged to Pring. That he saw as a vision of his own death during their mission with the USS Discovery. They traveled to the planet Kyle 279, which is similar state to 21st century Earth and on the brink of civil war. They reverse engineered a weapon from Starship warp drives after witnessing the Discovery mission in nearby space. Pike and his crew rescue Number 1 from captivity and break Starfleet's General Order 1 by interfering in the society to convince them to not use the weapons. They avoid repercussions because of the top-secret nature of the Discovery mission, but Starfleet doubles down on the rule by renaming it the Prime Directive. Pike recommits to his role and captains the Enterprise on a new 5-year mission of exploration. There you have it. That was May 5th, 2022. If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it anytime, along with the other 2 episodes that are currently out, Children of the Comet and Ghosts of Iberia, I think is pronounced. So far, I've liked it. It's very entertaining. I've liked all 3 episodes, and I like going back to episodic storytelling. But before we get into that, I got to get people to check in. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to check in. We will be discussing first the plot. Was it good? And in this case, the premise. Is this show going to make it? So plot and premise. The second part are the actors and the acting, the characterizations. Do you find them interesting? Are they compelling? Would you watch more? And the third thing is the special effects, the style, the look, the feel, the music, that sort of thing. Is this living up to your expectations for a Star Trek series? That's what we'll be talking about this evening, but first we're going to go ahead and take a check-in. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for your call sign, your name, and have you seen, say, Episode 1 or Strange New Worlds? Please come now with those 3 bits of information.
Kilo 5. Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell. I have not seen it, and Tom, I'll just be hovering in the background, so don't call on me. I'll be in and out. K5JW.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey J, near Whitford. Yes, I saw the episode.
WB5OZL in DeSoto, and yes, I saw it.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, in the kitchen. Yes, I saw the thing.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sharon Fort Worth. Yes, I see the episode.
G Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. Yes, I saw it. It's Cruise.
Kilo 1 Golf Bravo Delta, Guy in 40, and yes, I saw it.
good. There was double, but I think I got it resolved here. I got K5JDW. John, he's in for the count, did not see it. He's listening. He has nothing to say about Star Trek. Probably never seen a show. That's okay, John. We'll bring you up to date. KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford. Yep, you saw it. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. Yep, she saw it. NT5TM, Tony in the kitchen. Yep, he saw it. KB9SOK, Sean, Fort Worth. Yep, he saw it. KI5KWG, I think was Cruz. He got doubled over, but I got him out. He says, yep, he saw it. And K1GVD, Guy, he's here tonight. He saw it. Anyone else like to join us this evening? We're talking about Strange New Worlds, the new Star Trek series. If you want to join us, please come now with your call sign name. Did you see the first episode?
Kilo 5, Alpha November Echo, Kane and Richardson, and actually I'm current on the series.
All right, we picked up one more. We got Kane, K5ANE. He did see the series. Welcome back, Kane. All right, well, we'll start with this, and then we'll ask for additional check-ins later on. Usually there's some stragglers. So John's just going to listen, but John, we may ask you if you think this would be something you would like to see, so be prepared. So we'll start, just go down BZW, J near Weatherford, J near Weatherford. I wonder if that really is your last name, near Weatherford. Near might be the middle name. Okay. Jay, what did you think about the series? Is this thing living up to your expectations? And how was the plot for the first episode from KE5ICX?
KG5BZ. Sorry on echoing because I saw my transmission from home was a little bit more staticky than I'd like. Okay, the episode. I liked it. I really did like it. Biggest drawback was they didn't zero coverage of how the heck they were able to communicate to a language, communicate to an alien species without, the language and cultural and all other barriers that would normally be a lot. I'm having trouble words here. Just language itself would be a problem, and obviously they didn't have enough time to really cover all that. And that, I hate to harp on this too much, but that's really a big thing about the worst part about this episode is the fact that they skipped over that. And what is the episode about? It's about two cultures on a planet that are destined to each other, destroy each other, and they're even on the same planet, and they may have language barriers and whatnot, but they actually have some understanding of each other. Maybe not a good understanding or whatnot, but so it's kind of like they just skip over that bit and just it's a little bit too much of magical thinking. But if you skip over that, I thought it was a good episode. And like I said, it's 45, 50 minutes. You're not going to be able to cover a lot, so you're just going to cover some aspects. The fact that this is the introduction, this is Captain Pike, this is, and it found it kind of interesting with bringing in the other series by what eventually happens to Pike by him knowing it. I thought that was cool. And I'm not sure I have anything else to say at the moment. So I'll head next person, KG5 BCW, backing up.
Now.
All right, thank you, Jay. And there'll be plenty of opportunities when it's come up with other stuff. I'm pretty sure people are just going to start saying things that as they go through this. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, I saw your notes here. I won't repeat them, so try to contain your enthusiasm, but tell us what you think about the plot for Strange New Worlds. That's also the name of the episode of the series Strange New Worlds. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Well, of course, I've been a Star Trek fan since I was a very small child, and it was new. And I love all things Trek, and I absolutely love this show. I've watched it several times, and I'm just a total fangirl over it. Actually, I love everything about it, but let's talk about the plot. I thought the plot was interesting. It never dragged, and it wasn't stupid or pandering. I just thought it was a nicely done plot, and it gave the characters a lot of good opportunity to get developed. If it had plot holes I didn't notice, maybe if I went back again I would see some. But my feeling is like, oh, thank goodness, Star Trek is back. We have a good story, great special effects, and amazing characters. So, okay, I'll quit there. WB50ZL.
Wow, my goodness, that's quick. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm sure you will find other things to discuss. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Now, I am confident Tony thought that this was a perfect episode and a fantastic series. So, Tony, tell us exactly what you think from KE5ICX.
Well, you know, I'm a mean one, Mr. Grinch. So I'll have to phrase this carefully. It was not unsatisfactory. You know, for episodic television without a big story arc, it was pretty much okay. They did get some really traditional Star Trek fan notes into the plot. We, of course, had to have at least one fist fight. We had to have the strongly delineated white male patriarchal captain and various other diverse cast members. But that is, you know, in the tradition of the original Star Trek, which was vastly ahead of its time for including people who are not universally the same. So I would have to say that I found it interesting. Now, I have skipped a lot of Star Trek spin-offs. I saw the original series, some episode, and I saw the Next Generation, some episodes. And then Voyager came out, and I thought, oh, I'm so bored, and I didn't watch anything since then. I know there was, like, Deep Space Nine, and I'm guilty. I missed all of that. And there's a ton of Star Trek spin-off stuff I haven't seen. But I at least found the plot accessible and fun in the tradition of the original series, and very promising. Very promising. NT5TM.
very good. Thank you, Tony. That was better than I was expecting, but I'm happy. Good. KB9SOK, Sean, tell us about what you thought of Strange New Worlds and the first episode, Strange New Worlds, about Star Trek from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. My apologies for earlier for doubling. Sorry about that. But anyway, about this episode. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I happen to be a fan of the Star Trek series myself, even though there has been a couple of series that I've kind of skipped over as well. But I've seen most. I felt overall this was a pretty good episode. It was kind of nice to see some of the tie-ins to the original, which I'm sure that was for the fanboys and fangirls, which is joy, but they didn't overdo it, which was nice. Sometimes these days in science fiction, especially when they're tying into older series, they have a tendency to overdo it, and they didn't do it in this one. I don't mention the name of the other big series that does that. The one part I felt that was maybe a little bit lazy, and the writing in this one was the beginning. Once again, the reluctant captain not wanting to go back. We've seen this pretty much, I think, with every single captain of the Enterprise in one way or another. And we've obviously seen multiple times the storyline of, showing another species not to make the same mistakes that we have. I believe they did this in the Next Generation. I can't remember if they did it in the original Star Trek series. But so, it felt like they fell a little bit back on the classics, some of the basic storylines that they knew that would work well. I'm not necessarily really complaining. I just would have kind of liked to see the beginning start out a little bit different. But overall, I liked it. And as I guess maybe we shouldn't say this, but in the following episodes, I do feel that the crew is starting to mesh. The first episode, I don't know that I got that 100% feel of, this natural flow with the crew, but that seems to be growing as the episodes go on, which I think is probably the intent. So far, I think been pretty solid. The only real plot hole that I really actually found in this particular film or show was about that world being able through telescopes to build a reverse engineering warp drive, turning it into a bomb. I don't know really how would you do that by just seeing flashing lights in the distance, and even if you got a decent view of some of the ships with telescopes, how would you reverse warp drive from just a few pictures? It's not like you saw inside the engine. I think they could have maybe explained this better had, part of a ship landed on their planet or something after the battle. That was really the only real plot hole that I really found in this episode. All in all, decent, enjoyed it. Obviously, there's much more to talk about characterization and special effects. Back to net, this is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, yep, we can talk about that. KE5ICX.
KI5KWG Cruise in Arlington. I'm a little off base right now because I usually have a beer in me by now, and I'm not there yet. So I'm not sure I know how to talk on the radio. I like this. I was really pleased. I liked the format, and I thought it was a really good start to a new series. And, really talking about the plot. I think I've mentioned this several times because it's sort of the day the Earth stood still, first contact theme going on here. In this time we had, rather than threats, which we normally see in these type of stories, we had one of morality and hope. And I thought with Pike's knowledge of his own end, that was an intriguing perspective to add to this and sort of work towards the plot resolution with that persuasive, impassioned speech you gave. But I liked it. It was a Star Trek. It fit. Like Brenda, I started very young. Was 8 years old when I saw my first Star Trek, and it's been running a couple of years by then, I think. And so I know what a Star Trek's supposed to be. It was satisfying, and I liked the first story. So that's basically what I've got to say on this one. Back to you, Ned.
All right, thank you, Cruz. I kind of have a tendency to agree with you quite a bit on that. I agree, but I'm going to save my comments to the end. K1GBD, Guy, welcome to Late Night. What did you think about the plot for Strange New Worlds from KE5ICX?
Well, hey, Tom and the Night Owls. I hope everybody's staying dry. Well, I'll tell you. First of all, it was beautiful. I guess we're gonna talk about that later. So, but I'll toss that out there. You know, I will say that as it started, I was rolling my eyes because, you know, it's just like every new Batman movie and every new Spider-Man movie. It's just how many times can you tell the origin story? And the first story in particular has been told many times. Although I have to say that pretty much every time it's told, it's pretty good. This one in particular almost exactly mimicked a Next Generation episode, all the way down to them changing their appearance and going down. And in the TNG episode, Riker got caught, and they brought someone up to the ship and showed her that it was a ship and that it wasn't scary. And what's interesting is that in that, you know, 40-minute episode, no, maybe, I think they were even shorter, of Next Generation, I think they actually did a much, much better job of depicting kind of what it might look like for a, you know, a semi-advanced civilization to all of a sudden be, you know, confronted with drastically superior technology. And in their particular case, kind of they had some, you know, in that episode they had some advancements, but they also kind of thought that Picard and the Enterprise crew were gods. And so I have to agree with one of the previous comments about they just sort of, they saw, I mean, you know, we've got some pretty smart people on our planet, but I don't know that if we saw someone creating a wormhole in space and we saw it through the Webb telescope, that even if we put our best and brightest on it, we would be able to reverse engineer not only the traveling capability, but then to further take it into making it a destructive weapon. So I felt like that was a little bit light, and given the source material and the amount of times it's been told, and the fact that I think they've got a really good cast, which I know we'll also talk about, I think they could have done a better job. It feels like they kind of just, let's tell this story real quick. And so, but I have to say, in fact, I was watching it a second time, and I lost track of time and realized that the net was about to start, because I was actually going to watch it a second time. So I enjoyed it enough to do that, and I have to say, I do think that the idea that Pike knows his death is going to happen and when, I think that's interesting. That's an intriguing little nugget. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. So overall, you know, I dug it, but I think that I think they actually could have done even better. So we'll see kind of how it goes from here. I've only seen the first episode. So that's what I got so far. K1GBD.
Very good, thank you, Guy. And I write comments because when I get to do the net as net control, I get to take all your good stuff and then I get to roll it in and say, but of course that's true. Let me tell you this, though. That way then the all-knowing, all-encompassing. Never mind. Next up is K5ANE. Kane, your thoughts on Strange New Worlds, the plot from KE5ICX.
I originally approached this thinking, to some of the similar Star Trek series that have come out here, like Discovery and whatnot, and, those haven't really felt too much like Star Trek, especially some of the new movies. They definitely are their own kind of look and feel to everything, and their own kind of style, and kind of tell a bit different stories than what we saw with the original series and Next Generation. However, I do have to say, this episode, as mentioned earlier, is largely kind of a similar story to one that happened in the Next Generation. And, some of the artistic style and things like that of the ship, the music, and so much more is, it's somewhere in between the original series and the Next Generation. And so I thought that was a really nice, surprise to me that they were really, at least looking like they were trying to kind of bring it back to a similar kind of style in the storytelling as the original series. And so I really enjoyed that. As mentioned, though, I do think it may have been, they're trying to also, start off the series, and so there's a bit of trying to bring in the characters. So comparing this story to the story that, they're largely basing it off of, and having this one be a little bit weaker is a little bit to be expected, because they're trying to do more in the episode, so they can't flush out the rest of the story as much as, in the Next Generation, where we already knew the characters and we already, kind of knew what was going on. In this case, they kind of had to start the characters and start everything moving in this. And no spoilers, but they don't have to, tell you who everybody is in future episodes. They're able to flesh out stories a little bit more. So yeah, really happy with this plot, and really happy that it seems like they're trying to bring it back to a bit more classic Star Trek. This is K5A&E, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Kane, and all good comments all around. Let me ask before I make my comments, any additional check-ins? If you'd like to join us this evening, tonight's Afterglow movie is about the episode Strange New World. If you're out there and you'd like to join us, even if you haven't seen the series, you probably have seen one or two Star Treks, you're more than welcome to check in. Please come with your call, your name, and did you see this episode, Strange New World? Please come down.
W5 bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT, Bill Garland. Only got the first 5 minutes in, and didn't get to see it because it wasn't available anymore. W5BLT, that's in net control.
Okay, Bill, I hear you got one, just 5 minutes in, W5BLT, and I'll probably ask you anyway. Anyone else joining us this evening? Please come down. All right, well, Bill, you had a kind of a short introduction there. Do you have anything you want to say about the show and what you did see? Go ahead. right, thank you, Bill. You were mostly noise on that one. I really had a hard time pulling you out, but you want to try one more time, maybe increase power, improve position? I didn't get much of that, unfortunately. It actually sounded a little bit better first time around, but if you can do something to improve it, give it a shot right now.
Sorry about that, Tom. I'll go to the other radio that's got more power and check in on the next go around W5PLT.
All right, I would appreciate that. I'll tell you what, while you do that, I'll go ahead and give my comments and I'll come right back to you. Like most of you, we're about all in kind of that same age group. We're older, and I remember seeing the original series, and I remember the date. It was on September 8, 1966. I remember what I was doing. It was like that flashbulb memory. I was there with my parents. We were watching it on black and white television in the living room in Orchard Lake, Michigan, which is where I spent half of my childhood growing up. And I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, even though it had a monster in it that wasn't very realistic looking. I thought this thing looks like it's going to work. And one of the things that they did that made it work, and it was fascinating to me, was the fact that you really didn't know much about what was going on. You knew that there was this spaceship. They had the voiceover that told you it was a 5-year mission, and the starship going to other worlds and doing things. And whenever you have a voiceover, you know it's going to be something really strange because you got to explain to the audience what it is. And so we, of course, got that back, which I thought was great. They pressed all the buttons for me. The spaceship, close-up beauty passes and all that. Does it look like Star Trek? It looks more like the original Star Trek than anything that's come out at all over Star Trek. This looks more like the original series, only it's spiffed up and looks much nicer than it had in the past. So, and I think that's fine. I mean, even Gene Roddenberry decided that when he did Next Gen, he wanted to make it look far less like the original series. And I can understand that and respect that. We've been watching 10 years of reruns, or 15 years of reruns. And so he wanted to do something new. So I was perfectly cool with that. All the characters, backstories, and all that. As an original series fan, yeah, I remember these things. The Robert April character, who is the captain of the Enterprise before Pike, was technically Robert April because when the story treatment went to NBC originally, that's what Roddenberry called him, Robert April, and they changed the name to Pike, and then they changed it again to Kirk later on. So by default, we made them the captains of the Enterprise. It was reinforced in a animated series with Robert April as the former captain of the Enterprise turned ambassador, I believe, later on. Now he's the Admiral of Fleet Admiral. So in any case, I was okay with that. As far as the plot, let's drill that down a little bit because I thought that originally what people had said, how could they reverse engineer warp drive from a distance looking through telescopes? This comes right on the heels of Skynet. Could you? I don't know, could you? Think about it. We're already talking about warp drive now. It's supposed to be the 21st century and changing and warping space. So we think that it can be done. Why would these people be any different if they're the equivalent to what we're doing? Could we destroy ourselves? Yeah, many times over. We got the technology and capability now. Do these people have that? Yeah. Who does this represent? Of course, it's us. And that was pretty typical of Star Trek. But it's back to the warp drive thing. If you know that there's a containment field or however warp drive would work, and we think that we can make it a real live one, if you're able to observe the effects, even with a telescope, because we can't produce it at that level, it just isn't possible. But if you could see it and have enough telescopes perhaps trained on it and other instruments, they may have had stuff in space that further defined, maybe spacecraft were nearer, I don't know. but even if it were just the telescope, let's say, what kind of telescopes? What are they seeing? I mean, we're able to image a black hole. We couldn't do that just a couple of years ago. So I don't know. I don't think that's as far-fetched as it might seem. So I didn't have any real problems with it. I still agree with you. I think that it might have been really difficult to do, and to do so quickly is amazing. But, you know, maybe not. Maybe there's something going on. When you have that final element, great discoveries are made by people who don't know each other within hours of each other, because they're working using the technologies and the information that they have, that they've gathered on the shoulders of giants, people who have come before them that helped fly the way. Maybe there were some people there on the planet that had reached a point where they had warp drive figured out. All they needed was to see it in action, which is what they did, and they could make it happen. So I think in that case, I'm more forgiving of the storyline in that way. Now, other things about the story, the General Order 1 turning into the Prime Directive and all that, I thought that was interesting. And how did they resolve it? Well, they didn't want to blow their secret. The fact that they had unintentionally given them this information. I think, though, if it had been landed on a planet somewhere, then it would have been a big cover-up mystery. There's no physical evidence of anything happening, except maybe in their logs or their information that they had. But there's no physical piece of Starfleet or Federation technology that landed on the planet. If it had, then they would have had to take it away and figure out a way to stop them. But that wasn't the case. So several secrets were maintained by just keeping tight-lipped about what happened. So I thought that was probably a good way to handle it. The origin story has become sort of a normal thing. While it wasn't done in the original series, it was done in every series since then, and it was also done in Star Trek The Motion Picture when they did the relaunch. I think that's a requirement, and in fact, Lower Decks, which always is a animated show about Star Trek that plays kind of tongue-in-cheek, they take that to the nth level where everybody's on a shuttlecraft crying because they're looking at the spaceship or the starship that they're on. I can't remember the name of it. But in any case, it's hilarious. They're all crying because that's a rite of passage. So I'm trying to. There was something else. Let me look at my notes here. I just wrote one note, some of the morality. It feels good to have a good story and an ending that we can be happy with rather than being unhappy with. The series that was supposed to come out next on this series on this was called Section 31, which was sort of an espionage subversive organization like a CIA or KGB or something like that. I really am not looking forward to that series. This one I am, simply because I could use a little good news once in a while, just like the rest of us. So I could go on and on. I'm not, but I thought that it was well done. I thought as a first episode, I thought about characters, which is coming up next. But I thought overall they did a really good job with it. Now the one last thing, I guess I'm long-winded on this one because it is kind of a Trek-ish thing, is you only got 41, 42 minutes for an episode. When you're telling a 10-episode story arc with one story, you can go on and on and on, almost to the point where everything comes to a standstill, which has been true with Discovery and Picard and I don't know what others, but that those two shows just slow to a crawl. This one maintains its speed quite well, and pacing is good. and we get to move on to a new storyline. I'm good with that. They're trying to incorporate characterization, which is fine. We'll talk about that. So it's got kind of a next-gen vibe to it, but it's got an action-adventure original series piece to it that I really like. So it's more back to the way it used to be with some of the smarter storytelling, maybe story pacing, I guess, that we didn't have in the original series. Which, by the way, ran, what was it, 56 minutes long? So, I mean, you had a whole extra act in the original series because of the advertising. It's now so much a part of it. Okay, I'm done. That's way too long for me. I won't talk so long after this. Okay, let's go back to the top. J, KG5BZW. What did you think of the characterization and the acting in Strange New Worlds? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. All right. I like Captain Pike so far. The acting for him. There really it's so much about introducing new characters. You got Spock, you got Pike. Those are the two main. Of course, Spock. You kind of know how it's going to be, and how it's going to be acted is. It's one of those kind of things that I kind of hate to say it's easier to do Spock because some people can say restrict their emotions, so it probably has to be a particular type of person to do that. But at the same time, if you're that type of person, I mean, what else is there to do? So, when I'm saying restrict emotions, I mean more emotional expression. But then I guess that still fits within Star Trek lore. But anyway, remember we can get into some of the characters. Hello? I'm sorry, I wasn't hearing something through the radio. Okay, sorry. You really didn't get to see much beyond those two because it's like, oh, okay, we're going to use this little technique to change our appearance and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, you got hints of what these characters are going to be like, but not really. So I almost kind of think it's not fair to really talk about those characters until we've seen them a few episodes on. And I've only watched this first episode, but I probably am going to watch the next two and continue through the season. That's actually not. Sorry, I'm getting myself distracted here. I think of something else to say, really. I mean, besides the aliens, which, I mean, still kind of caricatures of. They bring up 21st century stuff. Well, okay, you know they're going to be 21st century caricatures and stereotypes and whatnot. So, what else is there to say about that? Because it's like, okay, it kind of fits. Yeah, all right, moving on. I guess that's all I got to say for now. KG5BZW.
right, thank you, Jay. And I made a mistake. I forgot to come back to Bill, W5BLT. Bill, my apologies if you're still there, and I think you are. Go ahead with your comments about Strange New World from KE5ICX.
W5BLT got to a better radio and outside antenna. Are you able to copy me now? Okay. Yeah, I was just going to tell you, I got 5 minutes into it with the where the horses got spooked and they wanted them to go back for the Enterprise. I am looking forward to watching this, and you know, it seemed like they were developing the characters and things. Obviously, I didn't get that far into it. I lost interest in the series after the probably Next Generation, and so kind of gave some of the other series a chance. Deep Space Nine, kind of like that. So I'm going to try to find this since I couldn't find it on YouTube. It looks like that got pulled, so I'll look for a link with it and see if we can watch it. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thanks for your comments. And yeah, stick with what you got right now, signal-wise. I'll come back to you in a little bit, see what you think about anything else. I know you had a very abbreviated experience, but I don't know. You may find something to say about it as you go. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what'd you think of the characterizations, the actors, that sort of thing from KE5ICX?
WB50ZL. Well, I was really kind of fascinated with the casting on this. I didn't always understand it, but some of the characters I'm not either don't know or not too familiar with. So we're going to see how that plays out. I'm very excited to see how everybody gets developed. One of the best things about the original series was the relationships between all these people, the dynamics. You know, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but you're always waiting to see how they're going to react to each other, and I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of that. I hope we do, with people who forge friendships or maybe not friendships, and yeah, see what makes them tick. I think we're setting up a lot of it. When Hemmer gets a little crosswise with Uhura, and he says, I like her. You know, I see endless possibilities here. I really like the Uhura character. I'm glad they're letting her sing. She actually, the actress won a Grammy for her singing, so it'd be a horrible waste if they don't let her sing all the time. And she's just so unlike the original Uhura, but you know, I don't mind that. It's one of the complaints, people trying to make it like the original, and it's not. You can't be. It's just logistically not possible. It's not the same people, it's not the same characters, it's not the same actors. I'm seeing a lot of naysayers on Facebook. Makes you want to give up Facebook because they're so negative and stupid. It's like, if you don't like it, don't watch it, but just shut up otherwise. Your comments do not help in any way. You're just trying to show off and act superior. And it's one of the elements of fandom that I do not like, and have been exposed to it so many years with going to conventions and actually being in a Star Trek fan club. And, you know, it's like, lighten up. Just enjoy it. It's just a show. And, okay, you know, Ensign Mount doesn't look exactly like the original Pike, but give it a rest. Just enjoy it. If it's a good show, take it for what it is. But I liked it. I don't really have any complaints. Except one complaint I have always had, it's like we preach about, well, we gave up having war because we're enlightened now and you can join us and not be violent, warlike people anymore. And yet, was there ever an episode that the Enterprise wasn't fired upon or fired someone else? They're always at war. So I just find a little incongruent that they preach about peace and they are far from it. But that's okay. Without the conflict, there's no story. All these kind of stories thrive on, fistfights and conflict and arguments and disagreements, and that's what makes it go. I'd be interested to see if they bring the Gorn back. They made a big point about the Gorn. And that one Gorn character, there were two Gorn in the first series, but one of them was just very minor. But for some reason that character has endured as a very, very popular character. And I think it would be really funny. I know he was very cheesy at the time. I don't know how if they would modernize him with a more modern special effects or not, but it remains to be seen. I'm just very excited. I can't wait to see what the future holds. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Very good. Thank you, Brenda. Well, the Gorn has shown up. He showed up in at least two episodes of Enterprise, which also did a refer back to the original series, or refer forward, I guess, and Enterprise came before that, before the original series in timeline-wise. But and he also appeared in a couple of hilarious episodes of Below Decks. Lower Decks, I think. Lower Decks? Yeah, Lower Decks. Which you would enjoy, including a Gorn wedding. And the fact that the Gorns just won't go away. Every time the guy wakes up, there's the Gorn. Gets knocked out, falls asleep. He wakes up, there are the Gorns. They're always there. And it goes on and on. It's very cute. All right, let's see here. Next up is have Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think of the characterizations? Do these actors show promise? Do the characters show promise from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to leap back to plot for a second and say that the least bad thing I found about the plot was the idea that people could reverse engineer how a warp drive worked from hundreds of warp drive signatures. We never really get a good explanation of what that consists of. So I imagine that if you know something is possible and you get data from all kinds of things, radio telescopes, gravity wave telescopes, optical telescopes, infrared telescopes, blah, 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 you know it's possible and you've got all this data, you can probably work out what caused all that data. That didn't bother me at all. That seemed very reasonable given the way modern physics often works backward from we got this weird interferometry signature. Didn't bother me at all. As far as the characters, yes, I did have to laugh. They certainly considered the original series tradition that all aliens are really just humanoids with some latex prosthetics on them, or whatever kind of rubber you have. And they decided that tradition was worthy, and they continued it. That in the original series, of course, that was because it was cheap and easy to do. And here, it certainly makes it convenient for the actors. You don't have to always be on a green screen all the time. So, kind of silly, but, okay. In universe, we have to accept that all characters basically look like humans. There will never be a water tentacle like we get in the Abyss, or anything really surprising like that, like in the Abyss or Arrival. That said, promising. You were kind of giving me a lead-in from your notes there, from my previous comments, and that's what I would have to stick with. It's the beginning, and the beginning is a very delicate time. So each person is trying hard to be like the character they're told they're going to have to act. Each one is trying to be strongly, I'm gleeful and happy to be here. I'm angry, I'm perplexed, I'm afraid, and so forth and so on. And we really just have to wait. The good news is nobody blew it. Nobody blew it. I really felt that everybody was still leading into something they could go with. So I am still looking forward to learning more about the characters, even if, all they could do was give us a good introduction. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Next up, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization, acting, that jazz from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Just to kind of mirror what a lot of people have said, a little bit back to just the overall feel. I do like the fact, I think somebody said this is kind of a nice balance between the original series and Next Generation, somewhere in between, and I do. It is nice to have that. Especially like this last season, Picard is very slow, very draggy, and I didn't enjoy this last season near as much as I did the first one. So it is nice to get back to just some good old-fashioned basic stories. Even though I do think we are going to kind of have an overall arc, going back to Mike knowing about his death. And one other little tidbit I didn't think of as we were talking here was, obviously they're trying to cover up what happened in the Discovery series with, obviously, the time thing. And being that these people, that's how they learned warp drive, and they're now joining the Federation, how are they going to keep an entire group of people quiet about that? So that's kind of an interesting little twist there. And yes, I after hearing everybody's convincing arguments, I will take back my comment about them learning about warp drive. You're right. There's more. I was thinking initially just looking through glass telescopes and not all the fancy instruments like we have today. So I do agree. Now back to characterization, which is what we're supposed to be talking about. I thought they did rather well. I think that they did a good job, kind of keeping with the original characters. But yet, obviously, they're going to have a little bit different feel. There's going to be those that are not going to be happy. But overall, I thought the actors did an excellent job on that part. I thought that, that they fit very much. And even going to Uhura, being a little different, well, this is as she initially joined Enterprise. By the time we see her in the original series, she'd already been on the ship for a long time. So obviously she's already going to be more confident by that time. So it's you're seeing the people in just as they were starting out. And so I think it's been a good feel, And I know there's those that's not going to like the new Spock, and there were some complaints during the Discovery series. But I think overall he's done a good job. I don't mind it. Obviously the original Spock is big shoes to fill, but overall I thought they really did a good job. And I do think they are going to build characters. Not to get into the other episodes, but we do see that already, that we're learning more about them, and you're starting to see them in ship builds. Overall, I thought they did a very good job. It is nice to see some of the tiebacks with some of the characters that we'd heard of, like you said, like the Admiral. That was kind of cool. And there are probably ones that probably missed in there as well. I thought overall pretty good. I'm not going to drag this out. So back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And I will say this. You capitulated on the warp signature and that, and said, oh, okay, I can buy into that because, that's what science is all about. But then you brought up a very troubling point. How are they going to take, I don't know how many billion people on that planet and keep them quiet about the fact they made a bomb thanks to Starfleet's use? I mean, there's enough people. I'm sure it may have been top secret, but how top secret can anything really be? I mean, really. The word's going to get out at some point, and then the fact that they've entered into the Federation, and we know that Pike is there, and April's aware of it, and they're going to get in trouble. We know that. So maybe that'll be the end of episode 10. Who knows? Okay, next up is, where are we going? We got Sean Cruz, KI5KWG. your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. Well, I don't know if it's all that difficult to keep all those people quiet about that y'all talking about. The moon hoaxers certainly think that's easily done. Anyway, I'm not going to get there. All right, characterization. I thought they did an excellent job on this. I thought they read the audience properly, being me. I'm not going to be particularly excited about introducing another Spock and another Uhura or another Kirk. And so that didn't seem to be the focus. It was Noonien Singh, number one, to me, Nurse Chapel, and actually, and I thought, as many of y'all have pointed out, I think they all did a very fine job of introducing themselves to us in short time and giving us a flavor for what's to come also. Now, I may be kind of in the dark on this. I'm going to admit that last Star Trek film was the last Star Trek I'd watched until this one. That film to me was so bad. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Beyond, I think is what it was. And it was so bad, I quit Star Trek. And I only started back because of this net. And so I was very pleasantly surprised. I'm actually looking forward to watching more of it. And a lot of it had to do with both the writing and the acting, as well as the new characters, or at least new to me. And that's why I mentioned I never watched Discovery. So some of these characters have been introduced and may be known to some of y'all, but I simply did not know them. I knew Spock, I knew Uhura, that was it. So I think that's what I've got to say. I was very pleased. I'm looking forward to watching some more of these. KI5, KWG, back to you next.
Great, thank you, Cruz. Next up, K1GBD. Guy, your thoughts on characterization, acting, that sort of thing for Strange New Worlds from KE5ICX.
Well, let me say this is a slam dunk of a choice of a film or an episode to watch. A great discussion, and you know, I will revisit my comment about how impossible it is to revisit, you know, an age-old, many told story. But you know, not to be a little bit cheesy, but you know, the idea of Brave New Worlds. I mean, imagine sitting around and, you know, being in the writer's room and saying, okay, what are we gonna do? And knowing that you're going to have to retell some of it, and knowing that you can't cover everything. I've always thought it was actually a real interesting challenge, and anybody who does it, whether they succeed or fail, is really, I think they are honestly really brave. So a couple things, and circling back to a couple comments. First of all, I think it was Brenda who was talking about, you know, how ironic it is that the Federation goes around with ships that are, I'm paraphrasing, but ships that are armed with lasers and photon torpedoes, and yet they preach peace. But I thought that and I will say that the J.J. Abrams movies, I'm a huge fan of. I think they're a really incredible take on it, on the material. I love the characters. Well, at least the first one and the second one. I don't think I even saw the third one, but and the second one is entirely about sort of the conflict of an inevitable militarization of the Federation and those who really believe that the Federation is meant to be an agent of peace. And if you follow, you know, a lot of these series along the way, you see that come up over and over and over again. You certainly see it in TNG with Picard, who is constantly fighting with some, you know, faction inside the Federation who is trying to get him to shoot at things or to to fight with the Romulans or whatever. So I actually think that's something that they deal with all the time. It's one of the things I really like about the Roddenberry universe is that it is this utopian level that the Federation and all their members have reached in terms of we don't carry money and everything is free and everything is great and we just better ourselves and that's what we do all the time. But we've got all these torpedoes and what are those for and how do you not get into war? And so I think that's a natural struggle. So I think they actually kind of cover that. I will also say that I was literally mouthing the words, as I often do on the rare occasion when I get to these, mouthing the words along with Tony, the idea that even though I certainly was skeptical about how do they reverse engineer, when you're, at least when I was a kid and we used to ride bikes, and one of the things that you did when you rode bikes is you went over ramps or you went down giant hills, and the hill that always looks a lot scarier from the top than the bottom, and then you've got the one crazy kid who finally rides down the giant hill and they don't die, and then everyone does it, right? And so just knowing that something can be done is incredibly motivating to humans. And I imagine at the scientific level, and certainly at the mind-opening scientific level, yeah, I think that, amending my statement a bit, that if you see that is possible, then you're not asking yourself, how would we transport ourselves through space at faster than light speed? We'd say, how did those guys do it? We watched them do it. It must be possible. So kind of changing my statement there. And also the statement about the fact that they somehow, like, everybody speaks English and they're bipedal and they have 5 fingers and 5 toes and a mouth and a nose, and I think it's one of those things. Battlestar Galactica is a really good example of that, when James Edward almost signed on to that. He literally put in his contract that there would be no weird aliens in the Thing show. And so everyone had to be humanoid. And I think that it's one of those, there's a fundamental, I wish I had time to write down in my notebook sort of this idea that I have of these fundamental check marks that you have to cover off when you're doing one of these. Okay, are aliens going to be like us or not? Are they going to speak English or not? And you just kind of have to make that decision, and then you have to just bite the bullet and go, okay, somehow we all speak the same language. Maybe they have a babel fish in their ear, who knows? But so I think that kind of thing, because I thought about that too, they sort of reach for they kind of look like humans. I think you just kind of, you have to do that or not do it. So, and in a galaxy, a large galaxy, I would imagine that there's got to be at least a couple, 3, civilizations that are similar to each other. So all of that said, as far as characterization, I have to say I really enjoyed all of these characters, with the exception, I've been seeing commercials for this, and I really feel like the guy that's playing Chris Pike is trying to act like Chris Pine playing Kirk. And I think some of that maybe is deliberate, because they all stylistically, right, they all kind of took from each other, even just in the canon, right? They all learn, Kirk learned from Pike, and and I like the fact that they've kind of settled this in a timeline that is very much where the first Abrams movie was, where Kirk was already kind of an operator, or Spock was already an operator. Uhura was just brand new, but a prodigy, and then Kirk, when he comes onto the scene, he's kind of new, but he's prodigy too, and so I like the way they're doing that, but I feel like the few moments where Pike kind of had a little one-liner, I just didn't feel it. I felt the one-liners and the sardonic, bits here and there from the other characters, and I felt like they delivered them really honestly and in a unique way. But during the lines where Pike, kind of delivers the cowboy captain line, I just didn't buy it. And so maybe that's new. You know, I'm not judging him too harshly. I think he's doing a good job playing the part, but I feel like that's more of a writer issue, that they're kind of trying to put these kind of, you know, Kirkisms into his mouth, and I don't think it fits with this actor. I don't think it fits the way that he's playing this role. He's kind of serious, but he's clearly, you know, kind of I feel like he's not like he's not the renegade guy. He's kind of the guy who really, really does want out. Like, he seems like he's really done. There was a lot of snow in between him and the guy that landed in the shuttlecraft, and a real cute girl back at the cabin. So I kind of feel like he's Kirk, you know, in the terrible TNG movie where he gets caught up in the ribbon or whatever. And, you know, so I feel like he's kind of a darker character, and so I feel like they should lean into that a little bit more. I'd like to see that, because I do think that would really set him apart and set the Enterprise, or the Starship Captain role apart in a way that we haven't seen. You know, Picard was not dark, and Kirk was not dark. So I'd like to see somebody who really is like, they really are reluctant. But I think everybody else did a really nice job. I think Nurse Chapel is very interesting. Uhura for sure. And I think Spock, and I think that his companion down on Vulcan, I'm very interested to see more about her. I really, really liked her scenes. I really liked her as a character. So yeah, I certainly am intrigued to see more. That's what I got. Get win GBD.
Thank you, Guy. Yeah, I want to talk about T'Pring too. I'll get to her when it's my turn. K5A&E, Kane. Your thoughts on characterization, acting for Strange New Worlds?
I really appreciate the mix of both some classic characters and the new characters. It really kind of opens us up to be able to really experience some new things without necessarily getting too caught up in the well, this timeline, so-and-so is supposed to be here, and well, you know, they're supposed to be saying this. It's like, you know, sometimes, you know, when you need to focus on consistency too much with all of the same characters that we already know, things get to be a bit of a pain. So I feel like it's a good mix of having some characters that we know and some characters that we don't know, and it'll definitely be a lot of fun to see how these characters grow and evolve, and see how they flesh out some of the history of some of the characters that we do know. I'm eager to see where this show goes. K5A&E, back to net.
All right, thank you, Kane. I have a tendency to agree with you on that. Don't forget, everyone, you know, the second pilot of Star Trek, which had introduced Captain Kirk, it was James R. Kirk. Okay? That was his name. It was on the tombstone and everything. And so what do you do with that? What happened to that doctor that was there, the one from Gunsmoke? He disappeared. And suddenly we got another doctor. So, I don't know. Just, you know, consistency, inconsistencies, whatever you want to say, it happened from the very beginning, and it's continued ever since. So I think, you know, people have to kind of take it for what it is. And certainly this has been retconned and changed and all of that, which we'll talk about in the next round. All right, at the bottom of the list is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, you got anything to add at this point? Anything you want to go? You want to see this series from KE5ICX?
Definitely piquing my interest on the series. Like I said, after the first 3, 4, I think the fourth one was Deep Space Nine, I kind of maybe burned out on it. You know, similar to the Star Wars movies. You know, I got through the first 6, the prequel, and you know, the last 3. I watched them, but I, you know, kind of didn't get into the characters. And I know we're not talking about the Star Wars, but the same thing kind of happened to me with Star Trek after 4 of them. Seemed like things got repeated. This one, though, and hearing you guys talk about it, has definitely piqued my interest. So I think I'm going to give it another go and get hooked in and drug into a new Star Trek series. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. That's good to hear. And now, John, if you're still out there, K5JDW, wake up, wake up. Your head is on the desk. I can see it from here. You gonna go watch this series? What do you think? Is this something you'd be interested in doing or spending some time with? From KE5ICX. I thought he might go to bed. Okay, anyone else want to check in? Please come now with your call sign, your name. Did you see Strange New Worlds? Okay, hearing none. I will not go really long like I did last time. I was being a fanboy, but I have to say, I do like Anson Mount as Christopher Pike. I think he does a better job than Jeffrey Hunter did. I kind of like the Boy Scout image. Yeah, he's a little bit of Kirk, but he's got some emotional baggage he's carrying with him too, which I think helps along the way. I find him most of the captains we've had from the series have a tendency to be kind of weighty, and they could have their moments, but I like the way he's playing it. It's much more fresh, lighthearted. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Ethan Peck as Spock, I think he's got it nailed. He does an excellent job, and I think they're doing a great job with him as far as how they're writing for the Spock character. They do understand the Spock character we're going to get. I just noticed they posted today, was it Amok Spock is the name of the episode, which I think is a redo of Amok Time coming up. Christine Chapel role, different Christine Chapel. I like her. I think what she has to go after that. I got to go after the rabbit. I thought was a hilarious line. I loved it. Christina Chong as Lan Nguyen Singh. Her character was revealed here in this week's episode. I like it. I like what they're doing with it. She's not close to Nguyen Singh, Han Nguyen Singh, but she is a relative. Let's see. We got Nyota Uhura, Celia Rose Gooden. I love her. I think she's great. She's a perfect character. We're going to get a lot out of her. The Venga character, who is now the chief medical officer, he made 2 appearances, I think, in the original Star Trek and was played adequately. This guy's doing a good job with it. I like it. But here we go. One of my favorite characters is Hemmer. We don't have much on him, but he's gruff, he's sarcastic, he's brilliant, and he's funny. Dry humor, I think he's great. He's the blind chief engineer. Now, we've had that before. This guy is actually blind, the actor is. So he's playing it very convincingly because he's blind. I think he's a fantastic character. And then finally, number 1, played by Rebecca Momjian. I think she's doing a very good job, and there's a lot of depth to the character. So I think it's well cast. I love the characters that they've selected and how they've done it. This is one of the most solid casts I've seen on Star Trek in years. I think this is going to go far. I hope they can keep the writing up. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and open up to any comments that you have at this point, because I think to go through the list will be another 30 minutes. And that's okay if that's what it takes, and that's fine by me. So I'm just going to ask if you have comments on anything about what we've discussed this evening, or you want to talk about the music, the special effects, something you missed along the way. Please come with your call sign. I'll go down the list. Please come now.
KG5BZW.
All right, well, maybe everybody's tired, but KG5BZW. Jay, go ahead.
It occurred to me when just after I had mentioned the bit about the language thing, you know, the original series, they really didn't. There was always something kind of magical. I mean, not magical as in the viewer, you know, feeling. Oh boy. What I'm trying to say is the language barriers automatically being broken, and you just understand everything. And I kind of forgot about that when I was making that criticism about this. Like, oh yeah, Star Trek universe. But still, at the same time, it's I actually can't remember what they do in universe to overcome this kind of thing. I know in the movies you actually hear like Klingon speaking Klingon, but then of course they actually had a budget to actually develop some sort of Klingon language or whatever. So you know, like we're not big budget yet here. But you know, I don't really. I almost want to take that back. That's it's kind of like, dude, it's a new world. It does feel really bad when you just don't address it at all. But anything else? I don't know. I guess I just felt like clarifying that point. It's all and head back to net control. KG5 is doing.
All right, thank you, Jay. Well, it's kind of, you know, you got to get into and familiar with the characters and the show and the vibe and everything. I was watching something on Deep Space Nine the other night, Center Seat. If you get a chance to see it, it's a History Channel, and they have it available. They talk about how, you know, the director with the first episode sets the tone for the rest of the series, and that's true. You create the examples the first episode, what you're going to be doing for the series, usually for the rest of, you know, how it works out, and it can be really tough on a guy. The guy who did the Deep Space Nine is just a kid when he did it, but he was well regarded, and he came in late and over budget, but managed to create what became Deep Space Nine. So I think that's an interesting thing. Anyone else have any additional comments they want to make? And I'll make my final comment on any of this stuff. So you got anything, please come now with your call. Okay, no problem. I will continue to watch the series. I love the retro look and feel to it. I love the sets and the virtual sets that they've created. I think that if Gene Roddenberry were making Star Trek for the first time today, it would probably look a lot like what we just saw. So I'm fine with it. As far as the canon part, people are always canon. The one series that looks out of place has always been Star Trek, the original series. It looks different from all the others, and that's because there's 15 years difference plus between them. But with this re-imaged Enterprise for the Pike era, it now fits in with everything that's come before and after it. So I'm okay with it. No big deal. I love it. All right, with that, I'm going to say what next week's movie is. It is available. I will double check it, but we're going for the jugular, everybody. Love space shuttles? Of course you do. Armageddon from 1998. There should be plenty of things you can rip apart in this one. Plus, it'll be fun to watch and scream and yell and throw your shoe at the television set. Next week's movie, Armageddon. Don't forget, you can find the information on the Facebook page. It's Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. Sign up and you can get the same list of information, including all the possible movies. I've updated the list. There's tons of new stuff in here that wasn't here just a couple of weeks ago. Movies that we've never seen, never heard of before. Some of them we have. Some of them that are now available for free that weren't. That sort of thing. They are here. Email B, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com and say you want in, and we'll put you in. And that goes for anybody who's even here tonight that's not on the email list. I send them out usually in the morning on Sunday, along with the links to where you can find the material of interest, your homework assignment. I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. I had a great time talking about this tonight. I am very excited about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm a Trekkie from way back, from the very beginning, and this one feels most like Trek in 50 years for me. See y'all. Have a good week, and have a good Sunday. This is KE5ICX and clear. Bye-bye.
Elvis has left the building.